Okay, this one will be about cataract surgery, what I expected and what ultimately happened. You get I had cataracts in both eyes. One eye, 6 weeks later, you do the other eye, and you sleep in the protective lens, pinhole, whatever. And then after a week, you can stop wearing it. They'll give you a contact lens for the other eye, in which case it was about -8 diopters. Now, I never expected to get my vision back from -8 diopters. I personally blame my vision habits as a child, 100%. It was not the optometrist, it was my habit, a child habit that does it. You change a child's habit, you can prevent entry into myopia. But of course, that's my idealistic self and the belief that I could have done it if I were given the opportunity. And believe me, that's difficult for parents and child, as I completely understand. So you sleep with this on your face at night. Um, what I expected, I had no idea what to expect from cataract surgery. All I asked for was that I would pass the DMV, meaning I could read the 2040 and 2060 lines, which is the real requirement. And I knew that cataract surgery could probably get me to pass the DMV, and then I could use a plus lens for doing close work. What I did not know was the accommodation. I chose a fixed lens, which meant I had no accommodation. I mean, I would be able to read the driver's license test and pass it, hopefully. And I could avoid wearing glasses most of the time, but I expected to be totally blurry at 20 inches. And so I'd use a plus lens, which would meet any requirement I had. But also curious. And so the goal was set up a Snellen. You're an engineer, you can do it. You can measure your own refractive state. It just requires logic, persistence, and so forth. And there's no law against measuring your own refractive state and working your way from 2060 to 2020. So after about 3 or 4 months, everything settled out. I started using a Snellen, and I was about 2060. But I did not know was accommodation. I figured nothing. I'd be very happy if I couldn't see anything close by, but hey, that's the price of doing business. It turns out that with a fixed lens, the entire eye, one way or the other, can accommodate by 2 diopters, which I've proven many times just by eventually reading the 2020 line, positive refraction, and can read at 20 inches. You see many videos where I don't have any glasses. Very simple, because I have a range of accommodation of 2 diopters, practical, actually measured. So that was cataract surgery. And they gave you a little package which says left eye, upside down, sorry, okay. And you get it complete with a patch. And there's my driver's license with no glasses. Okay, so I take responsibility there. I always pass the DMV 2060 and 2040 and expect to do a lot better than that by my own measurements. Again, there's no law against personally getting yourself back to 2020. There is the statement, sorry, Brown, so forth, phaco, right eye, DOS 908. So September 2008, I had the cataract surgery. About the age of 50, 60, you'll get cataract formation. A little haziness, you don't have to do anything. And I let it go till I was 68 years old because it was obvious that I had to do something. And I think Medicare covered most of it. So that is how I went from -8 diopters to what would now be called hyperopia, meaning my refractive state measured slightly positive. I really hate that word because it's misleading, wrong, false. The normal has a positive refractive state. It's not defective. Why do they use those words? If you have a Snellen and you read 20/20 line through a +1 diopter, your eyes are not defective. They're 20/20. They don't realize the eye accommodates and needs a positive refraction to have 20/20. And they'll always prescribe glasses for you when you have 20/20. Crazy. So that's why I make my own measurements. Now, people say I blame optometrists. No, I blame ignorance. My ignorance as a child, the ignorance of the public, and the ignorance to not realize that prevention is possible, and to prescribe glasses for people who don't need glasses. And this is because you don't check your own Snellen, and you're not an engineer. When I talked with Rafelson, I realized that the situation was hopeless because the public's ignorant. They will not wear a plus lens properly when they're 20/40, and that ends everything. Why do kids do that? I did it. There was absolutely no reason to do it, except I did it. The consequences of doing that are pretty severe myopia, compounded by a minus lens, which just makes it terrible. If there were any educational program, it was to prevent a child from ever doing that. And the parents don't understand it that way. No, I don't blame anybody. I blame my habits. And I learned the hard way, the consequences. So that's cataract surgery. It's far better than LASIK. And for me, much less expensive. In fact, I've had 20/20 vision now, or after I made it to 20/20, for the past 17 years. I would say I only really did good 20/20 the last 15 years. And then you object to wearing a plus lens for near. I'd say you're crazy. There's no other way. But you've got to start it before you're down to 20/40 or 20/50. I could see a program of pilots doing this who are engineers who make a choice when they're 20/40. But medical will block that discussion. Even the whole concept, block it, because the public's ignorance and they won't understand it. The only other person who made the real change is Jeff and Rupert Wong. Their thinking is a little bit different, but they realize they can't put their kid in a minus lens, which means they're going to keep their kid's nose off the page. That by itself will probably solve the problem, providing the kids understand the discipline and never do this. That was certainly Rafelson's thesis. And he's right. And nobody listens. As far as getting out of 20/40, it's discipline and objective measurements. And I've been doing this now for 15 years, but nobody listens. Nobody does anything. Everybody thinks medicine must do everything for you, and you're incompetent. It's true, most people are incompetent, but you always trust a person's intelligence, and then he proves otherwise, almost always, and then they give up. This is what Rafelson finally had to do. You give up because the person has no interest, no understanding, no motivation, and he wants medicine to do everything for them. And it's tragic. So unless I talk to the person and he's an engineer, prevention won't work. But I mean prevention, people who previously had 20/20, as in your in junior high school and you go down to 20/30, 20/40, then you could prevent it. Beyond that point, or start wearing a minus lens, it's over for you. Done, kaput, finished, stop talking about it. But prevention would be possible. So that's cataract surgery. And that's where I learned that with a fixed lens, the eye has a practical range of accommodation of 2 diopters. 20/20 to chart, can read at 20 inches. Add your own commentary. Are you learning anything? Are you asking questions? Are you doing anything? Are you thinking? Sometimes I doubt that you do. Thank you.